Hey friends, welcome back. I am Jason, and there's a new movie out. I believe it's called Homestead. If you've seen it, let me know. I have not seen it yet. I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard everything from it's a great movie, it's an amazing movie, super realistic, to good grief, it's so fictional that how could anyone possibly believe that this is a realistic scenario? The synopsis, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is that there's some rich guy that bought up a whole bunch of property, developed this compound, hired on a whole bunch of former SEAL Team Deltas, and they are protecting this property, and they're attempting to survive after this post-apocalyptic scenario. That's what I gather from it. Now, I don't watch a ton of movies. I watch some movies, but I don't watch a ton. And for the most part, everything that I've seen in as far as survival movies go is I've seen very few realistic survival movies that really paint a clear picture of what it's like to be in a survival scenario. Now, me, for example, I've never been in, well, I shouldn't say I've never been in a survival situation. I've never been in like a true wilderness survival situation for real, where I've been starving and having to live off the land and navigate my way out of a wilderness. Now, I have simulated these a lot, up to a month. I've done some longer term survival scenarios, and I've learned a lot from them. And what I've learned, one of the things that I've learned primarily is that the movies are not realistic. Everything that you see in the movies about, sharpening spears and fighting bears and swimming across the rapids months into your survival scenario, all these things are so far-fetched and fictional that it's laughable. If you've ever experienced this stuff for real, if you've ever really put yourself into difficult situations, you'll know that it's ridiculous. Survival, for the most part, specifically if we're talking about wilderness survival, is really boring. It's really boring, not exciting, lonely, sad, and miserable. A whole lot of mundane, slow, methodical, everyday tasks that just have to be done. Yeah, like gathering firewood, for example. Gathering firewood is such a huge, monumental chore if you are reliant upon a fire for your survival. And the problem with gathering firewood in a situation like that, if you are stationary, is that the firewood gets further and further away from you. It goes away. You collect all the stuff around your little base camp, and then suddenly you've got to start going another 10, 20 yards further, and then another 10, 20 yards further, and then again and again and again. And eventually you're traveling, if you're out there long enough, you're traveling a quarter mile or more to gather sticks. And it's exhausting, and it's mundane, and it's boring. And it becomes very difficult, especially if you're extremely low on calories, which you would be in a survival situation. It becomes really difficult to everything from just like having to tie your shoes, take your shoes on and off, becomes this chore, this monumental chore of where you have to really plan it out, and you have to really think about it and decide, is this something that I really want to do? Is this something that I really need to do in this situation? So again, I'm judging a book by its cover here, guys. I haven't seen the movie, but I think it's worth discussing just the very concept of hiring on a whole bunch of people that you really don't know. You haven't probably vetted that seriously because they don't necessarily already live in your community. I think that's important. And then you got a whole bunch of guys that you've hired on that don't have any families, don't have any ties to anybody, don't have any friends or family that count on them, that rely on them. Why is that? Oh, that's not good. Drop the drill. Speared into the ground. But my question is, why would an individual, be in that situation? Now, I don't know. Here's what I think. If one person leaves and abandons you because they think you're an a-hole, it might be them, If two people do it, they leave and abandon you because they think you're an a-hole, could possibly be them. If everyone you know has abandoned you, good grief, look what I've done. If everyone you know has left and abandoned you, and you're all alone, Possibly, just possibly. I'm just saying, hypothetically speaking, it's probably you. So hiring on a whole bunch of guys in this kind of situation, I don't know if it's a good idea or not. You let me know what you think about it in the comment section. Could you trust people like that? So I think it's pretty dang important to develop a community of friends, family, trusted individuals that you've had lots of time to vet, that you've spent countless hours with, working together, working through struggles, failures and successes, all of these types of things. I think it's really important because those are the people that you can, for the most part, trust. I think it'd be risky to try to pull off a situation like this Homestead movie. I think it's a recipe for disaster. I think no matter how much money you throw, that's not it. It doesn't matter how much money you throw into your preparations. It doesn't really matter without the people. The people are the valuable thing. And so one of the only movies that I found to be somewhat realistic as far as survival movies go is one of my favorites, and it's Castaway. Everybody loves the movie Castaway. If you don't like the movie Castaway, just you can unsubscribe now and leave. Because we have nothing in common. Great movie. Wilson. I mean, come on, Wilson! Such a great movie, such a great scene. Because it really paints a picture of the emotional, psychological struggle of survival. What's his name in the movie? Chuck? Chuck? I think that's what it is, but could be wrong. Can't remember. But anyway, he's innovative and he thinks outside the box and he never gives up. And he's always got this motivation of getting back to the woman he loves that keeps him going, that keeps him alive. And that is so real. That's so true. Your why. Why am I surviving in the first place? That is a big deal. That's a big deal because if you're emotionally not there, if you're emotionally, psychologically not there and you've checked out, your body will fail. Your body might have already failed, but you can keep it going. You can push. You can push you can always push a little bit further. One more day, one more hour. I can do one more day. And when I was doing that month-long survival challenge, that's what it was. It's just like, it was this constant reminder of, oh gosh, don't fall. I can do this. I can do this. I can do one more day. I can always do one more day. And then after that one day goes by, I could do another day, And that kept me going, right? It's the small victories, the small goals. And I wanted my kids to be proud of me. I wanted my wife to be proud of me. I wanted to be an inspiration to other people that they can accomplish difficult things. And that was one of the primary motivations for me to continue on. I wanted to accomplish something really difficult. But in the case of, Castaway, he wanted to get back to his girl, that was his primary motivation. And this emotional struggle that he went through was very realistic, I thought. And I actually know the guy that was the inspiration. He was a survival consultant, David Holliday. I've had long conversations with David Holliday. Spent a week with him once. Really cool guy, lives out in the desert. And he was the inspiration behind Wilson. He gave that idea for that movie and they put it in there. He was the survival consultant. So brilliant idea, amazing scene. Love that movie a lot. And it's one of the more realistic survival movies that I've ever seen. Yeah, throwing the spear, 50 yards and spearing the fish into the ground after being stranded on an island for years. Yeah, maybe not that realistic. Who knows? But the emotional side of it, the psychological side of it, I thought was quite realistic. Another great movie is Apocalypto, great survival story. One of my favorites, actually. I really like that movie a lot. Set into Central South America. I guess it was South America. And, the Aztecs have taken over the area and they're just wiping out vast swaths of villages and native people that live there and taking over and just just slaughtering them by the hundreds, if not thousands, and sacrificing their prisoners. And anyway, great story, because he's just, the main character of the movie is constantly motivated by getting back to his wife, pregnant wife, and small child that are trapped in this pit, and he's always thinking about how I can get back to them. He's extremely motivated, and I love that story. Great survival story. Most movies, however, they basically feed into people's irrational fears. What is the name of that movie? It had Alec Baldwin in it. I think it came out in the 90s, maybe early 2000s, probably the 90s. And it was about, their struggle to survive in the wilderness. I think their plane crashed, and there was a bear that was like just stalking them, hunting them. They ended up making spears and stuff like that to fend off this grizzly bear. So dumb. Like most wild animal encounters are very small, very slim, and it's usually you see the backside of the bear running away from you because they want nothing to do with you. And it's movies like this that just feed the irrational fears. There's one guy, and one comment the other day, I was talking about sleeping on the ground, outside, not in a tent, just sleeping on the ground in a bivy bag. And a guy was like, well, what about coyotes, a single coyote, he said something about a single coyote not being dangerous, but when they're in packs, they're extremely dangerous. Let me ask you this. How many people do you know of that have been attacked by a coyote? How many people do you know of that have been killed by coyotes? I would guess your number is 0 because it just doesn't happen. It's just not, it's so slim. It's such a small chance, such a small irrational fear. It's not even worth really worrying about. Coyotes want nothing to do with you. They're afraid of you. I mean, yes, there are situations. It has happened. There have been coyote attacks on small children and stuff. And there's been, I think I looked it up, there's been like 2 deaths from coyote attacks. So it's just and the bugs and the spiders and stuff like that. Everybody's so afraid of bugs and spiders. And yes, they're here. If you come outside, you will be with the animals, the bugs and the spiders. But it's not worth worrying about. If you're worried about it to the point of you're afraid, just stay home. but otherwise, just get out and just accept that you're going to be amongst them and deal with it as it comes. Another movie I really enjoyed as a kid was, I guess I was a kid when it came out. Probably it was in the 90s. It was The Postman. I don't know if you've ever seen The Postman, but it's a pretty good one. It's a post-apocalyptic type movie, if you're into that kind of stuff. I enjoyed it. Realistic? Meh. Man, I am the worst at remembering actors' name. What's the actor that played in The Postman? Jesus, super popular actor, especially back in the 90s. What the heck? He's right up there with the Tom Cruises. Ford, not Harrison Ford. H-I... Kevin Costner. There we go. Had to go through the alphabet. Finally got to K. Kevin Costner. Anyway, Kevin Costner's character just wants to be left alone. He's this wandering vagabond, kind of street performer. He's making ends meet by reciting Shakespeare and putting on pretty terrible plays, and entertaining people in a world that is without entertainment, that lacks entertainment. There's no more TVs and radios and all that kind of stuff. It's just the spoken word that is their form of entertainment. Anyway, there's this warlord, this evil warlord that is attempting to impose his will upon the world, and he's building this army and of capture, basically a really similar scenario as the Apocalypto movie, really, just a different setting. And he's kidnapping all these guys, and he's forcing them into his army, and they're just wreaking havoc on the world and doing what they want, where they want to do it. And some situations, some parts of that movie are semi-realistic, I guess, that you'd have groups of people that bond together and build small little communities and villages and such. I think that would be a thing. It has to be done. You're only going to live by yourself for so long until you get hurt or you need something, whatever. It's the lone wolf thing. I think most of us have realized that you can only live by yourself in a situation like that for so long until eventually you're beaten by something. So having a community, having people you can trust in, again, like we said before, I think is super crucial really important. That's not even close to the right length. Who measured this? Who measured that? That's what I want to know. He sucks. Another good movie, another survival movie that I liked was The Martian. That's a really good one. If you haven't seen that one, you need to check that one out. That one's really good. Again, going blank on the actor's name. I'm the worst. But that movie's really good because he never gives up when, everything seems absolutely doomed. He never gives up. He thinks outside the box. He's innovative, and he just does the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And that's all you really can do in a survival situation is the next thing, like we discussed before. What I would do in a longer survival situation is I just pick one thing a day. I've got one goal for the day besides just not dying. Maybe I need to go collect a little bit of food, or I need to build one more trap, or I need to gather some firewood, or whatever. I'd have a goal of one thing, and if I accomplished that one thing, I was content. Because what you expect is like, okay, I'm going to get this, and this done. And what ends up happening is you get almost none of it done. And then you're disappointed and you feel like a failure. So in a survival scenario, when you're weak and possibly injured or lost or, just extremely fatigued or dehydrated, having a goal of one thing, what's the one thing that I need to accomplish to get me to the next day? That could be all the difference right there. Another great survival movie, In the Heart of the Sea, Moby Dick story. Makes you never want to go into a boat again. That's for sure. But real life, realistic struggles of men that were stranded at sea, wrecked by this giant monster of a whale, and then marooned on an island, basically. And they had to make this really difficult decision, stay on the island where there's almost no resources, no food other than a few eggs they could find on the ground, and a little bit of dripping water off of the rocks. Stay there and potentially die, or almost certainly die, or risk the fear of heading back out into the abyss, into the darkness, and face the whale. What a great story. And just they had to face the horrible decision of eating their dead comrades or dying of starvation. And and then the judgment that followed after the fact. They never spoke of it in the story. They never spoke of it, but incredible story. Obviously a work of fiction. I think was it based on a true story? I think Moby Dick was based on some sort of truth. I don't know if a whale actually sunk a ship or not. Let me know if you know more about the history of that in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you guys think about this in the comment section. Let's have a conversation and see what you think about movies versus reality. Are they even worth considering as a useful aid as far as can you learn anything from them? That's what I'd like to know. This new movie that's out, I haven't seen it yet, but I'll eventually probably catch it. I never see movies when they first come out. It usually takes me a year or so to get around to it. But let me know about this new movie. Homestead. Can you learn anything from it? Is it realistic at all? That's what I'd like to know. Thumbs up, friends. Subscribe if you haven't done so already. And until next time, what's the worst that could happen? Let's just go on 3.